I received this question asking who, so far in Outlander, knows about the time travelers, so let's talk about it. As always, this will have spoilers for the books and the show, so if you are looking to avoid those, please do keep on scrolling. So obviously amongst Claire, Jamie, Brianna, Roger, and the children, they all know that each other can travel and that they all share the time-traveling gene, minus Jamie. So to tackle this list, I'm going to try and go in order of who found out and when, and include show and book examples. The first person is Jamie, who found out from Claire herself that she was a time traveler after he rescues her from Cranesmere. He, of course, instantly believes her, and then later comes to find out that his own daughter, Brianna, can travel, her soon-to-be husband, Roger, can travel, and their children. Early on in the story, while in France with Jamie, Claire also confides in Father Anselm about being a time traveler, so he actually does know about Claire. Then, of course, we have Galis Duncan, who suspects that Claire is a time traveler during the witch trials of Cranesmere and probably beforehand. She also learns about Brianna through Claire in season 3. Myrta found out about Claire's ability to time travel while in Paris with her and Jamie. They also extended his life in the show, and he was able to learn about Brianna being a time traveler. The Comte Saint-Germain in the show, it's not as obvious that he knew Claire was a time traveler. In the books, we understand that as he was dying from the poison, he identified that Claire had the same blue aura that he had seen elsewhere and put together that she was likely also a time traveler. This is later confirmed by Master Raymond in the novella The Space Between. And of course, Master Raymond knows Claire is one of his children from her blue aura as well when they were in Paris. Frank Randall obviously learned the truth about Claire after researching into Jamie and finding her in history, and did the same thing with Brianna, and had knowledge of Brianna's ability to time travel as well, as we saw in his letter that he wrote to her in Written in My Own Heart's Blood. Mrs. Graham suspected that Claire was a time traveler, which was largely incited by her knowledge of the stones, Craig Nadu, the lore, and Claire retelling her experiences. And Fiona ends up finding out, likely from her grandmother, but also due to her relationship with Roger Mack in the books. And she is aware that Brianna and her family are trying to go find Roger, who went back in time, as we saw in season 7. It's not implied that her husband Ernie knows, however. Reverend Wakefield also isn't told explicitly by Claire that she is a time traveler, but he definitely looked into the research with Frank. He also is convinced that Claire is sane when she returns from the stones and feels like she has a terrible secret, so it's implied that he knew that she was telling the truth. When Claire comes back from the past, she also confides in her close friend Joe Abernathy. Him and his wife are aware of Claire's ability to time travel, as well as the MacKenzie family. And Joe actually helps Brianna go back in time in the books when she goes to look for Roger in the past, and later stays there when they reunite with Claire and Jamie. Attaway is the Mohawk healer who Claire meets when they first begin constructing Fraser's Ridge, and she can tell that Claire is a time traveler and a healer. This interaction, if you wanted to rewatch it, takes place in season 4, episode 4 in the shows. Ian Murray finds out from Claire during season 5, episode 11, titled Journey Cake. And of course, the Murray family found out in season 7 when Claire tells them about her knowledge of France at the time, sits them all down, especially Michael, because she knew about the French Revolution. And while they don't necessarily believe her, Claire did tell them that she was a time traveler. Similarly, Lord John Grey is told by Brianna and Claire in the books that they are from the future and that they can travel through time. He is a very logical man, so he doesn't necessarily believe it, but he also tells both of them that he will allow them to believe it on their own if they so choose to. Now, of course, fellow time traveler Wendigo Dahmer learns about Claire's ability to time travel back in season 6. He is one of the members of the Montauk Five who traveled through the stones at Ocracoke. Marsley and Bregas are characters that aren't explicitly told either, but they are amongst these time travelers, playing with toys like airplanes, saying "in your time" in front of Marsley when she's working in Claire's surgery. And Jamie actually tells Claire in Written in My Own Heart's Blood, chapter 134, after they bury Jane and they have her funeral, that Claire had warned them about what was to come in the war. And so Marsley leaves Germain in the care of Jamie and Claire, who are going back to Fraser's Ridge. And that was a decision made because they had the knowledge of what's to come in the war from Claire. So they definitely know she knows of the future, but they haven't been told explicitly that the MacKenzie's or Claire are time travelers. Buck accidentally falls forward in time and is reunited with Roger MacKenzie for a second time. He recognizes him when he first lands in the future and is curious about how this man can show up in both timelines, and later learns about time travel and that he is also one of the time travelers. And Buck is obviously around Jemmy and Mandy as well, so he's aware of their abilities and gifts too. Rob Cameron is cozying up to the MacKenzie's in season 7 and reads about their ability to time travel after stealing Roger's notebook and reading the letters from Jamie. He incites the whole plot to capture Jemmy in order to have him go back in time through the stones and find the Jacobite gold. So him and all of his members of his gang are aware of the MacKenzie's ability to time travel and Claire's. That includes Mike Callahan, who later we know travels back in time and is presenting himself in that time as Captain Ezekiel Richardson. Some bonus characters. Obviously, Roger's father meets Roger but doesn't know who Roger is, but he is aware that Roger is also a time traveler. Lionel Menzies, who we saw briefly in the show in season 7, in the books he watches Brianna and the children disappear through the stones, so it's implied that he then realizes that they can time travel. In the space between, the novella featuring Joni McKimmey and Michael Fraser, Joni witnesses the Comte Saint-Germain and Master Raymond disappear through a portal and puts together that she was kidnapped by the Comte Saint-Germain because he suspected that she had similar powers to Claire. So even though it's not explicitly told to her either, one could assume she could put 2 and 2 together, that she witnessed people traveling through time and that Claire is a time traveler as well. He didn't make an appearance in the show, but when Buck and Roger are back in time, they also meet another time traveler, Hector McEwen, who is also a healer and takes care of Roger's throat and Buck's chest issues. He also ends up healing Brianna's ankle when the family ends up back in 1739 Scotland. So as you can see, the list is pretty lengthy at this point. If you can think of anyone else who might know about Claire or the MacKenzie's ability to time travel, leave a comment for me below.